Today, I'd like to talk about manipulating large data in Revit. My name's Colton Haney. I'm a senior technical specialist at ATG USA. And so let's get started. So in today's presentation, I'd like to discuss reasons that you may want to manipulate Revit data using spreadsheets. We're going to take a look at Spreadsheet Link CTC tool and figure out what it is and show you what it can do. I'm going to walk you guys through the Spreadsheet Link user interface and how it works. And then we're going to use it to manipulate a lot of data rather quickly. And also I'm going to show you guys a little trick you can do with it to create a lot of sheets all at once. So let's start with why. Why would you want to use spreadsheets in Revit? Well, manipulating a lot of data all at once in Revit, it can be cumbersome. If you find a way to do it, it can sometimes bog down your machine. It's a lot of steps. Like for example, creating the sheets, you have to right click on the sheets in the browser, select new sheet, then you've got to give it a name, tell it what title block you want to use. And then only then after you've created the sheet can you even change any of the data, change its sheet number or change its sheet name, any of those things like that. You can't do it until it's been created. And so it takes a long time and it can be very tedious. Some other reasons may be that some of your staff may not be experienced using Revit. When I was in field, a lot of our PEs didn't really work in Revit. They would look at sheets and give us red lines, or they would kind of talk us through things. They work mostly in spreadsheets. And I understand this is not the case in all places, but this is how it worked where I was at. A lot of the engineers would just mostly work in the spreadsheet and then have some of the lower level designers and the drafters incorporate it into the Revit model. This was also when Revit was still kind of being brought into use. We were still doing a lot of projects in AutoCAD. And sorry, off on a tangent there. Another reason why you may want to use spreadsheets is that, at least in my experience, it's way easier and faster to create and edit lists of data in spreadsheet than it is to go through and select every element or go to a different page, and so on and so forth, which you'd have to do in Revit. And I don't know about you guys, maybe I'm on the lower or lesser, I don't know how I want to say that. When I was working in field, and still even to this day, I spend a lot of time in spreadsheets. I like spreadsheets, maybe that's not all of you, but a lot of time is spent creating them and making them usable tools. One thing we had when I was in HVAC design was that we had our standards built into the spreadsheets. And I mean, there's a lot of time that firms will spend on making these usable tools. So why, if we're gonna spend a lot of time on that, why don't we make it so that it's even more useful actually in Revit and creating the model? Well, that's where Spreadsheet Link comes in. Spreadsheet Link is part of the Revit Express tools. It's part of the BIM project suite. And it allows you to export data to a spreadsheet from the Revit model, where you can then edit it and import it back into the Revit model and make changes to the model from that spreadsheet. And then it even allows staff to work outside of the Revit environment. You don't have to be familiar with Revit. You don't even have to have Revit installed on your machine or open. You can work in, say, Excel or whatever spreadsheet software that you like. You can work in that and work on the spreadsheet. And then you can send that spreadsheet to somebody who is working in Revit and they can apply it from there. They wouldn't even necessarily have to make any changes themselves. They can just apply it using the tool. So some big key features of Spreadsheet Link is that it does support formulas. So you can incorporate those formulas into your spreadsheet You can understand why this would be super useful and be able to apply it to the model. You can export and edit both instance and type parameters in the same spreadsheet at the same time. You can create your spreadsheets from schedules that you've already made in the model. Maybe you've got some good schedules that you like using in your Revit template. You can go ahead and export those schedules and already have those parameters ready to be manipulated. You can use it to create unplaced rooms, spaces, areas, zones, and sheets. And then maybe after using Spreadsheet Link, you've developed a good workflow that you like. You can even save these settings that you're using for future use, either in the project or even as a settings file that you can bring into other projects. So I would like to actually go into a Revit model and show you guys the tool, walk you through the interface. So in your Revit application, you'll have the CTC software tab, and then under the BIM project suite, you'll find Spreadsheet Link. And when you open Spreadsheet Link, it will actually open two windows. It'll open a settings dialog box, and it'll also open a spreadsheet. This spreadsheet is actually built into the tool, so you don't have to leave Revit to work on it. You can actually do all this within this spreadsheet right here. But if you'd rather, or if you want to send it to somebody who's not using Revit, cases like that, you can save this spreadsheet and send it to them, and then when they send it back, you can re-import it. So we'll start with the settings dialog box. The settings dialog box is where you configure what items you want the spreadsheet to be populated with. You can select from your categories in the model. You can also come here to type, say you don't need every instance, every element of a single category. You can come in here and select the different types. So for example, like I've got air terminals in here and I have 4 different types. And also another thing, as you edit these, you can see them populate in your spreadsheet. So I've got the 4 air terminal types. You see that it only populates with 4. Maybe if you're doing a lot of type editing, this could be super useful, so you don't actually have like a list of hundreds of items. You only have the 4, and it'll still apply to the individual. It'll still apply on a type basis. And then you can also come over here and, as I was saying before, you can choose from different schedules that you've already created within the model. And this will bring in all the parameters that you're already using within your schedule. But for this, for our purpose here, I'm just going to work off categories because the functionality will still apply to the types and the schedules. But this is kind of building, it's kind of like building from scratch. So you could use types and schedules to save time because part of it's already built. We're just going to use this for our purposes. So I've got some air terminals in this model that I've built. And I'm also going to do a little bit with the mechanical equipment. So after you select your categories, you'll notice that a tab for each category, or say that you've added types or schedules, you'll get a different tab for each one. And all this populates in real time. And they'll be added to your selected categories and schedules area. Then once you've selected your categories, you'll be given different parameters that are available for each of the categories. And this is it's unique to the category that you selected. So when I select my parameters for air terminals, it's not going to be the same parameters that are selected for my mechanical equipment. It's unique to each one. So you can customize and get only the information that you actually want or actually need. Next thing you'll notice is that These are color-coded, blue and green for whether it's an instance or a type parameters. The green is going to be your instance and the blue is going to be your type. You'll also notice that some of them are this light gray color and some of them are black in text. And that's to indicate whether or not it's a read-only. So black text are parameters that you can edit, and light gray parameters are they're things that are read-only and that you cannot manipulate through Spreadsheet Link. So for our example here on my air terminals, I'm going to want to know the size of the diffuser. So I'm going to grab the diffuser height and diffuser width properties. I also want to know the model number, the max flow, and let's grab the type. So as you can see over here in the spreadsheet, it populates, and you'll notice that the color coding stays with the spreadsheet as well. So it creates color-coded columns for instance and type parameters. One thing here, though, you'll notice is that the light gray text here and the black text, it's not the same as it is in the settings dialog. Here, the black text is indicating that it's a type, and that these red borders indicate what are called key cells. So the key cells are the cells that are dictating what the type is. So for example, the size, that's a type parameter for these air terminals. And I've only got 4 types, but I've got multiple instances of the elements in the model. So say this 6x6 connection size air terminal. There's 4 of them in the model, so you'll see the 1, 2, and then there's 3, 4. They're all the same type. They're just different instances of the element. So the key cell, what it indicates is that it's the cell controlling the type parameter. So for those 6x6 connections, say for example that we talked to the manufacturer, and we actually have found that because we need a smaller air terminal, we're not going to use this T600 anymore. We're actually going to use, let's say they call it a T600X. So I can change that parameter here, and then you'll notice all the other ones of that type have also been changed. And that's because I changed it up here in the key cell. If you want to know what key cell, because it's you've got multiple, one thing you can do is you can come in, you can click on one of the cells, and you can see what key cell is actually driving that. So like for example, the 8x8, it's being driven by E7, so we'll go to E7. So this is the key cell driving that parameter. But continuing with our example, I can change some of these. Let's say it's a smaller air terminal and it's actually 12 inches. So it's 1 foot 0 inches. And you'll see that got changed for the others as well. Let's do the same here. There it is changed. We've already done the model, and then let's say, since it's smaller, it can only handle 400 CFM. You'll see that change there. So as I've only got, say, somewhere around 100, I think it's 99 actually, air terminals in this project. You can see where this can be super helpful, say if you've got a multi-story hospital maybe, or some higher education buildings, things like that. Big, huge models where there's going to be hundreds upon hundreds of objects in the model. You can go in and very quickly and easily change this, this data. without having to go through and say, like, there's only 4 of the 6x6 connections. I would have to go floor by floor by floor if I was not familiar with where they actually were and find these and change them. Or I could use the edit type, but you can see here, it's all broken down for you. So let's say we're working with some VAV boxes here. Oh, one thing I should point out though is that when you've selected your categories, the first 3 rows and the first 2 columns will already be generated. These are identifying each element in the model. And because of the way that these are created, these should never be manually edited. I'm sorry. These should never be manually edited because of the way that the formulas are created for Spreadsheet Link. This allows for the tool to import the data back into Revit. And so if you were to change any of these, it would break it. And you'd have to start over with your settings. So back to, we were working on the mechanical equipment. So say we're just trying to find out, we're just trying to build some kind of, maybe we're building a schedule, or we're just trying to look at what we've got in the project. So I can select some parameters. Specifically, we're looking at this mark because I haven't changed any of the marks yet. You'll notice that these key cells, they're different sortings, and you can actually manipulate how you want to sort the spreadsheet. So say I wanted to sort it by manufacturer. Well, I guess it already is. But you can see where you can change these and manipulate them, sort them how you see fit. Maybe you didn't, I put all these in by type as I went through. Maybe you didn't do that. Maybe it was a little more sporadic. You can see where this can help you organize that a little bit. Or you can apply filters. Say you were working on a renovation project, you can come in here and you can change how phases that they were created. So you know that you're only changing new items. You can filter them the same way that you would filter any kind of schedule or other items in Revit. One thing to note is that when you change filters, it will override your spreadsheet data. And so if you make any changes and then change a filter, if you haven't applied those changes to the project, they will reset to what they were before before you made those changes from the last application. You can also filter. You can use project filters. So say you want only items that are in the active view. Maybe you only want it in the primary design option, so on and so forth. So come over here, and as you can see, I've had the manufacturer, model, and type. Same instance here, say we find out from the manufacturer that we're using a different model. Or I mean, we find out that we're using a different model, probably not from the manufacturer, but you can make those changes. Maybe say you weren't being used, we're no longer using that manufacturer for that model, so on and so forth. One cool thing you can do here with because you can manipulate so much all at once. So most cases, I wouldn't be running with these marks where it's just the default. I'd probably be labeling them by floor, starting with 100. So say, for example, I want to change all of them to be hundreds. So I can change this first one. And then I can come over here and Normally within the model, you'd have to find each individual item or go through your schedule, and you'd have to change each item manually, individually. Because you're using spreadsheets, you can come over here. Oops, I'm sorry. You can come over here and use it like it's a spreadsheet. So it can incorporate those formulas and those functions that you would normally get, say, in Excel. You can see where, say, again, if I was in a multi-story hospital and I've got 50 VAV boxes or, you know, similar things like that, I can make those changes really fast. Whereas in the model, it would take, I mean, just doing these would probably take 20, 30 minutes. So once you've got your settings, or you've made your changes how you want them, you can come over here to say, you can apply them to the project. You can apply them by each individual worksheet, or you can just, like I've made changes to both of them, I'm gonna go ahead and apply all of my worksheets. Yes. And then it will give you the results. It'll show you how many they changed, how many stayed the same, if they created any parameters, if there were any issues. And then you can also look at a more detailed log and see what actually was changed, what worksheet it was on, so on and so forth. You can also say, maybe I'm working with a PE and they want to see all of the air terminals in the project. I can come in here, I can just click save. I can save it to my desktop in a XLSX format or some of these other different spreadsheet formats. And then I can email him that spreadsheet. He can open it. He can make changes if he wants to. And then he can send it right back. And when he sends it back, I can come in here and I can just open it right up. I'm not going to do this because this will clear my changes, but you can just open it, import it into your spreadsheet that you're using here, and then you can apply it straight to the project, not actually having to work in Revit at all. So say maybe you've got an intern, this is something you can have him do that. I know it would be something that they would have made me do when I was interning, is just come through and change all of the, say, the sizes for the diffusers or whatever. And I wouldn't even have to know how to use Revit to do that. I can send it right back to them after I've made the changes, and they can put it right into the model. Now, another thing you can do is you can create parameters. So let's say, let's say that there is a color. The architect wants to have different colors for the diffusers. So I'm going to say it's a color. It's obviously going to be an instance parameter. I guess it could be a type parameter based on the model, but we're just going to leave it an instance parameter for this example. We're just going to make it text, since it doesn't necessarily have to be modeled, but we would like to have it on the schedule, and we'll just group it under text. See here, added a new column. I can come in here. I can say whatever colors. And then this little apostrophe is just part of the function for it. You'll notice in these other ones that were populated from the settings, they have a little apostrophe in the top. So say I just want to come through here and arbitrarily, oops, or maybe Maybe they come back later and say they want them all white. You can see how quickly and easily I can make these changes all at once, and then I can apply them back to the project. It just goes by so fast, so much faster than going through there and individually saying, I want to make these this color, or create the parameters for each different type. So let's say, let's make some sheets here. So I've got one sheet in the model, just a generic, not even name or number changed. We can bring these over here, the parameters for them. Actually, I want to change the order in this. You can see you can change the order using the up and down arrows. And then I can come in here and go create new sheets. So I've got, I think there's going to be 50 sheets in this project. I can tell it what title block I want to use. And then you'll see that it's created all these new sheets here. So I can come in here and I can change all the names. You know, I can use spreadsheet formulas that are built in, or say, for example, I've got a master sheet list that the project manager sent me, and these are the pages that we're supposed to be using. I can actually copy and paste these into Spreadsheet Link, and then apply them to the model, to the project. I must have double used one. No. Okay. And see, it will not let you create duplicates. Sorry about that. You've got your, you can come in here and your typical spreadsheet editing tools here. And you can actually protect your worksheet with passwords so that, say you're using this and you just want to, you've got the workflow. You don't want anybody to mess with it, but you want them to be able to bring it into the model and use it. You can password protect it so that changes can't be made, but it can still be used. Over here, if you're happy with these settings that you've used and you want to use them in future projects, you can actually save them to this project. And then every time you want to make those changes, you can just open them and not have to reset all this. And you can also save it to a file for use in other projects, which you would use that load settings from the project if you're within the same thing, or from the file if you've got it saved on your machine. You've got the typical kind of settings for like preferences, asked to save before closing, member size and position, so on and so forth. You can find help, some videos, talk to tech support, and learn about the license actual version of the software. Or so say if you're done with this, you can start a whole new settings and basically start from scratch. So now that I'm done here, I'm going to hit apply to all work sets, and I'll close it. I don't want to save the settings for this, but that is an option that you have. You'll notice if you close the spreadsheet, it doesn't actually close the tool, but closing the tool will actually close both windows. Looks like I'm having some issues here. It's not a presentation if you don't have technical issues, right? Let me see if I can. I'm sorry, guys. I'm going to have to kill Revit. Okay. I would like to show you guys the sheets, but I don't. I don't know if I will have time for that now. Okay. Use Task Manager to close that. Open that model back up. Again, I apologize. This shouldn't take too long. It's not a very big model, and I can redo those sheets for those of you that would like me to repeat that. And then I can also show you how it worked. Okay, so come up here to CTC Software, Spreadsheet Link. And as you can see, when you have the tool open, you can't actually manipulate anything in the project. So we'll just do the sheets again real quick. Grab the sheets category. I don't actually have any sheets in the model, I guess. So manually, this is how you would create a sheet. Right click, choose your title block. Then once it's created, then you can come in and you can edit this data. Whereas with the tool, you can come in here, populate the spreadsheet, say I need the sheet number and the sheet name. And then I've got 50 sheets that we're supposed to be using for this project. So I'll create 49 sheets since I've already got one. I'll grab that horizontal title block. So now we've got all those elements, and then I will copy and paste from my master list that I was provided. And we've got that one duplicate, so let me fix that real quick. Now I can apply apply all worksheets to the Revit project. No errors. And then I will close the spreadsheet, close this. I do not want to save my settings. So now you can see all those sheets just got created that fast, all 50 of them. You can see where this can save you tons of time, maybe as a model manager or the BIM manager, or even just as you're creating your sheets while you're doing your design process. Another tool that goes with this is the Spreadsheet Link Express. It's really just a player is kind of how I understand it. So as I was talking about before, you can save the settings that you've used, or maybe you've already got settings saved in the project. Using the Spreadsheet Link Express, this is where you would be able to use that really quickly. You can use it through the traditional Spreadsheet Link dialog box, but if you really just, you're not going to mess with any of it, you just want to grab those settings, you can come in here and just straight from that file, just load it and apply it. And you won't have to change anything. So say that would be a good example for if you've got, maybe you want to build some templates that already have sheets set into it, or you know that you're going to need a specific parameter to populate your schedules. You can go ahead and bring those in very, very quickly, easily, and without any headache. And that about sums it up. So as I was talking about with the Spreadsheet Link Express, it's another add-in, another tool, just automates it. So using previously saved settings, load it from either the file that you saved before, or maybe somebody else saved it, or it's already in the project. You can just very quickly load it. And then so people who are experienced using spreadsheets, they can go ahead and define those settings. And then some drafters or interns, maybe they're not experienced, or, I mean, maybe they are, but other users that might not be experienced in the spreadsheet, they can apply them to the Revit project. And so you don't have to know Revit, and you don't have to know spreadsheets, as long as you've got some people who know one or the other, at least, kind of talking together. So just in conclusion, Spreadsheet Link, what it does is it allows you to export data from the model, put it in a spreadsheet. Then you can, either using the built-in spreadsheet editor or your own spreadsheet software, you can edit it and then send it right back into the Revit project and actually apply that data. It's not just text, it is actual usable Revit data. Saves a lot of time for manipulating a ton of data. You can do it all at once. You don't have to do it one category at a time. You can literally change a ton of data all at one time. And you don't even have to use Revit. If you've got somebody who can create that spreadsheet for you from the Revit data, you can change it, you can add new parameters, you can create sheets, you can change data that you want in that spreadsheet and send it back to them, and they can put it in the Revit project. I hope you guys have found maybe some ideas for how you could use this in your own projects. I think it's a super useful tool, and it can even be coupled with our Schedule Excel tool, and that's a big dynamic duo that can do a lot of stuff and make use of these spreadsheets that we spend so much time on. I'd like to thank you guys for taking your time out to listen to me ramble on about this tool. If you've guys got any questions, you can reach out to me at this email address. You can talk to some of our other technical staff at HEG.